So, picture this. You've just landed a massive investment for your company in Romania. Everything's signed, sealed, almost. But then, the whole thing grinds to a halt. Why? Because of one tiny mistake on a form from weeks ago. Sounds crazy, right? Well, today we're diving into the legal gauntlet of changing shareholders in Romania. It's a process that's way more complex than you'd think, and where one small slip-up can literally cost you the deal.
And I'm not making this up. This quote, it's from a real-life situation where a deal was hanging by a thread. I mean, everything was good to go, the money, the contracts, all of it. And then, bam, screeching halt. The reason wasn't some big economic issue or a problem with the business. Nope. It was because one single, outdated name was still listed in the official shareholder register. Think about that. One line of text almost blew up the entire thing.
So, you're probably asking, how on earth can one name cause that much trouble? And it's a great question. Here's why. Changing shareholders in Romania isn't like, just updating a spreadsheet. It's a super formal legal process. Every single document, every signature, every deadline has to be absolutely perfect. If you mess up just one thing, the whole transaction gets blocked. Your deal is just stuck.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off with that crazy story about the lost deal. Then we're going to walk through the 6 essential legal steps you have to follow. We'll touch on a brand new hurdle that popped up, look at the common traps people fall into, and wrap up by answering the million-dollar question. Do you actually need a lawyer for all this?
All right, let's get right into it. The core checklist. And I want you to think of this less like a checklist and more like a sequence. The order here is absolutely critical.
First things first, let's get some key language straight. When you're dealing with a Romanian SRL, that's their version of an LLC, you're not trading shares like on the stock market. You're transferring something called Părți Sociale. Now, these aren't just pieces of paper. They represent real ownership, voting power, and your right to profits. And here's the kicker. None of it is official. I mean, nothing until it's properly registered. Until then, as far as the law is concerned, it didn't happen.
Okay, so how do you even get a transfer approved? Well, the standard rule, right out of the box, is that you need a yes vote from shareholders who own at least 75% of the company. But, and you really need to hear this, your own company's rulebook, the Articles of Association, can completely change that number. It could be 51%. It could require everyone to agree. 100%. So the first thing you have to do is check your own documents.
And here it is, that 6-step sequence we talked about. It's a domino effect, really. You start by drafting the share transfer agreement, then you hold a shareholder meeting to get it approved. That approval means you have to update your Articles of Association. Once you have all that paperwork, you file the whole package with the trade register. That's the ONRC. After that, you update the beneficial owner declaration, and the final step, you notify the tax authority, AIF, if a controlling interest changed hands.
Now, I really want you to zero in on step 4. The moment that shareholders' resolution is signed, a countdown begins. You have just 15 days, that's it, to get your complete file to the trade register. If you're late by even 1 day, it's an automatic rejection. The transfer is legally dead, and guess what? You've got to start the whole painful process all over again. So just when you thought that was complicated enough, a new law came along at the end of 2025 and added another big hurdle to the gauntlet. This one is specifically for anyone transferring a controlling stake. You can really see the before and after here. Before mid-December 2025, things were, let's say, simpler. But after that date, this new Law 239 kicked in, and it introduced a brand new non-negotiable step. You now have to notify the tax authority, ANAF.
So what does this actually mean for you? Well, if you're selling a controlling stake, you have to loop in ANAF. But listen, it's not just a heads up, it's a gatekeeper. If the company owes any taxes, the whole transfer is put on ice. The trade register literally will not register the new owner until those tax issues are cleared. So this law basically turned tax clearance into a mandatory checkpoint in the legal process.
Okay, so knowing the steps is one thing, but honestly, that's only half the battle. Now we need to talk about where things really go off the rails, the common traps that can sink your deal.
All right, let's run through the top 5 mistakes. Number 1, grabbing a generic template off the internet. Big mistake. They're almost never compliant with current Romanian law. Number 2, working with an outdated Articles of Association, which is exactly what happened in that story we started with. Third, missing that killer 15-day deadline. We've talked about that. Fourth, and this happens more than you'd think, people forget they have to update 2 things, the shareholder list and the separate beneficial owner register.
And finally, if you have foreign shareholders, something as simple as a missing translation or a special stamp can completely halt everything. So with all these steps and all these potential traps, it leads us to the big question, right? Can you, or should you, try to do this on your own?
Let's just cut to the chase. Is a lawyer a nice-to-have or a must-have? Well, the law is actually pretty clear on this one. The short answer is yes, it's mandatory, at least for a key part of it. The law in Romania says the actual share transfer agreement has to be certified by a lawyer or a notary. There's no getting around it. For that document, a do-it-yourself approach is completely off the table.
So really, the question isn't if you need a lawyer, it's about how much help you need. Look, if it's a super simple transfer between existing partners in a company with zero debt, okay, maybe you need the minimum. But the second you add any complexity, we're talking a new investor, a foreign shareholder, any tax debt, or heck, even a shareholder you can't get a hold of, you've moved way beyond just needing a signature. You need someone who can actually navigate this whole maze for you.
And that really brings us to the final takeaway. What's the real cost of getting this wrong? It's not just a rejected form or paying a small fee. The real cost is a multi-million-dollar investment that vanishes. It's an acquisition deal that falls apart at the last minute. It could even be a legal battle over who actually owns the company. When you think about it like that, you realize this isn't just about paperwork. It's about protecting the very foundation of your business.